Hi, this is Bill Punch with another video from Michigan State University on the topic, the practice of computing using Python CSE 231. We're going to introduce our third data collection today, the tuple, and talk a little bit about how we can use it in functions. Let's go ahead and get started. So tuples are kind of an odd data structure. They're an interesting combination of both the string and a list. Like any collection, and this is going to be true for almost all the collections we see, we can index it, slice it, iterate it, test membership with the in operator, measure its length with the len operator. Like a list, a tuple can consist of any combination of types, but like a tuple is an immutable data type. So that's kind of an interesting combination, and we'll see how we can take advantage of that. Making a tuple is kind of tricky because of the way it prints. The easiest way is with a constructor called tuple, and the argument that tuple takes is an iterable like it does for a list, and then every element of the iterable is placed into the tuple. The shortcut operator, though, is the comma, and it's the comma that makes things a little confusing. Let's take an example and run it through. When we create the first one, my tuple 1, we use the tuple, and each individual element, A, B, and C, were placed in the tuple. The second one, we use the commas to separate each one, and then we added 1 and 2 and 3 as the tuple. What's problematic is that when the tuple prints, both for the first and the second, it prints surrounded by parentheses. I think that's more or less to make things easier to read. But the parens do not make the tuple, the commas make the tuple. And here we can show that very clearly. Here's 3 examples. One with a comma behind it, one grouped in parentheses, and one grouped in parentheses with a comma behind it. One of these does not make a tuple. Which one? Let's try it out. You can see that the middle one, the grouping of 1 is interpreted by Python as just that grouping. It does not make the tuple, but when the commas are used, we exactly get what we expected, a tuple data structure. So the big question, of course, is why? Why do we have something like a tuple, this immutable list, if you like, or a string that consists of mixed elements? Well, we can't do any of the list things to it. We can't append, we can't insert, and can't delete because a tuple is immutable. So we can't do any of that. Tuples also don't have any of the string methods because their types are mixed. And so really what's good about a tuple is that it's a way to create a collection that can't be changed. It's also useful in functions. If you want to, a function can only return one thing. That's an issue about a function. But if you want to return multiple elements, what you can do is you can group them together in a tuple and return the tuple. And we'll see that in the next example. Imagine that we have a text file where each line consists of a name followed by a list of integers. And here's such a text file, blown up really big so we can see it. So the first element of every one of these is a name, a string, Bill and Tom and Fred. And what follows then is a set of space-separated elements, right, that we'd like to pull out. And imagine that these are grades and we want to average them or find the min and the max, something like that. So we'll use a function to try to do that, and we'll build it up one line at a time. We're going to build a calculate line function, and the calculate line function takes a single string. One of those strings is going to look like one of the strings that we got from our file, right? And the main function will feed us those strings. So we'll get one string that has a name and then some number of integers. And then from that string we want to gather the max and the min, the name, and the average and put them all together. And what we'll return then is a tuple with those 4 things in it. Let me tell you the quick explanation, and then we'll go back and look at it. The first thing we want to do is we want to split the string by white space into a list of strings. If we split this string by white space, then we'll get Bill as a string, 1 as a string, 3 as a string, 2 as a string, 5 as a string, 4 as a string. Okay? We want to grab the name, so we split it, list of elements. We want to grab the name, which is always going to be the first element, and we're going to remember it as name string. Then we want to make a list that we're going to hold on to, and we're going to go through all of this from 1 to the n, which should all be strings of ints. So we're going to take that score, we're going to turn it into an integer, and we're going to append it onto this score list so that at the end we'll have a list of integers, the score for that particular string. We'll sort it in place. If we sort it, we know that the last element should be the max, the first element should be the min, and then to calculate the average, there's some functions available to work on lists of integers. One is called sum. As it turns out, there is a max and a min, but we really don't need them at the moment because we've already figured those out. So we'll sum up all the scores, divide it by the length, which is how many there are. That is the average. Max comes out as an integer, average comes out as a float, and then we make a comma-separated value string name, max, min, and average. And let's make the function, and then let's run it on a quick example. Here's the kind of string that we would get. What do we get back when we run it? We get the tuple, the name, the max, the min, and the average over those. If we want to use this now to calculate that for the whole file, we need to write a function that opens the file, strips each line, and stripping each line is important because we want to make sure that we take off carriage return and line feeds at the end. Interestingly, if there's a blank line in the file, then the strip will turn it into an empty string, takes out the carriage return line feed, equivalent to a false in Boolean. We'll see that in a second. Print it and close it. So here's the main. We open our file. When we iterate through the file, we get a line at a time. We strip the line, take off the carriage return line feed, and put it back into line. If a line remains, that is, if we didn't get an empty string having done the strip, then we say calculate line, get the result tuple back, print it out very nicely, and at the end we remember to close our file object. So let's define that function. Let's go ahead and run main. So if we were to run main on this file, we would get Bill with his average, Tom with his average, Fred with his average.